Morning folks, welcome back to UK Here We Grow. Bean poles. So we're at the end of March. I've decided that I'm going to be putting all my bean poles through here along this edge of the bed. Bean poles, well there's 101 different ways of doing it. I've seen some absolutely ingenious structures on our site, and I'm sure you've seen some on yours too. But for me personally, after a few bits of trial and error, I've narrowed my structure down to my favourite, and there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm going to be doing a X-shape structure, and that allows me to basically get to the crops that grow on the inside, because at the bottom of the section there's only a small area that there's a little bit fiddly to get in, whereas if you're growing like an A-frame, all of the inside of that, the runner beans can hide in there, and they can be quite difficult to spot. And obviously you want to be picking your beans before any start getting towards going to seed, because otherwise it just triggers the whole thing to go into seed, and then disaster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab some canes out of the big polytunnel. That's where I keep them all winter, and the reason I keep them in there, and I mean I know a lot of people leave their canes in situ. I don't. I'll take them all, break the whole thing down at the end of the season, get them all bundled up and stored away. And that way they don't rot in the ground, because if you leave canes in the ground over winter, they're going to rot. So, and they're not cheap. So I'm going to head over, grab some canes out, and then we'll quickly throw this together and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so I've got my canes out. Now the first thing you do is you put 2 in at each end. So I've just roughly put these in. They're down about 6 or 7 inches each side. And I did the same right at the far end. Ignore all the stuff in the middle, I'll come to that in a minute. Then what you do is you just tie off a piece of gardening twine down on one end, run it all the way up, round here a couple of times, to here, round there a couple of times, and then all the way back down, and just tie it off down the end. And that basically gives you a couple of nice lines that you can follow. It's only rough, you know, but it just gives you something to work to. Then once you've done that, you want to put about 3 or 4 sort of evenly down the length of these cross structures, and once you've done that, then you can start putting in this central brace all the way down. I'm using 8-foot canes for all of this, and I'm using these cable ties, which are about, I think they're about 200mm long, and they're about, I think they're about the 4mm ones. You can buy these on eBay, they're cheap as chips. I've used these ever since I've started gardening, and I think they're great. It just saves all that fiddly tying. Not only that, with string it can deteriorate over the season with UV light and rain and everything else. I found some of the gardening twine, it just falls to pieces, and then so does your structure. With these, you know, you're pretty much guaranteed to have no problems over the season. So I'm just going to put this last one in, and I'll move the camera up for you so you can see what I'm doing. I'm always a bit short this way, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to sit that down in there like so. I've got a little measuring stick. It's just a bit of old cane really, just so I can get my height about right. And then that's going to go around all of the canes, the 4 canes that are there. Tighten that right up. And then what I always do, where there's a joint, i.e. one of these horizontal canes where they cross over, I always put a couple of ties like that on the joint. Obviously there's a little bit flapping around up this end, so we'll do a tie on there as well, just keep it in and nice and tidy. They're so easy and quick, aren't they? I'm going to do the same this end as well. And finally, secure this end off. Again, just check it with my little measure. About there. Right, so now what I need to do is just spy it down, and I can see I've got a bit of a kick in the middle there. So all I need to do is just push that over, push that one over, and that one over. That'll do for me. Good stuff. Okay, so then pretty much straight away, it's quite easy after here. I'm going to start off with runner beans up this end, and then by the time I get to sort of 2/3 of the way down, I'm going to be tightening up the canes, because I'm going to be doing Bellotti beans at that end and runner beans at this end. Runner beans, in my opinion, need a little bit more space, and they can be a bit naughty, runner beans, because they can tend to grow up one pole and then decide they're going to jump over, so you do need to keep an eye on them. So all I'm going to do then with runner beans is probably about, I suppose that's about 8-9 inches apart, about 9, yeah, good 9 inches, and come down to so like that. Try and avoid skinny canes if you can, because runner beans are quite weighty, you know. When you get them full growth in the height of the season, you're going to have quite a few kilos on your frames. Okay, grab a handful, whip around the other side. I'm just going to do these few, and then we'll come back when I've done them all, and I'll show you something else that's very important that you must do when you're putting these sort of structures together, because if you don't give it extra support, the wind will take this. Because if you can imagine, prevailing winds for where we are come from the southwest, which is from that direction, and it's like hitting a wall, and the whole thing can go straight over. But there is a trick you can do to prevent that. Right, so they're roughly in situ. Back to the trusty cable ties. Get a handful of those out. Just get them roughly about where you want them to be. There's no particular way of putting these on, just as they go really, as long as you've grabbed all of them. Right, happy with that. Right, we're going to come back when I've done all of them all the way down, and then I'll show you how to strengthen this thing up, because at the moment, no matter how much of this you put in all the way down, you're still going to get this going on, and you need to avoid that, and there is a way around it. Okay then, that's it, they're pretty much all there now, but like I say, we have got this bit of a problem with the structure being a bit wobbly like that. Now there's a quick way around that. What we're going to do is grab one of those. Where's my tie's gone? And we're going to basically put that in like so. Okay, and I'm going to push that down. Now these cross braces just basically take out all that sideways movement, and it really does strengthen the whole thing right up. So you can't use too many of these wire ties for this bit, more the better. So everywhere there's a crossover like here, put a wire tie on it, nice and tight. All the way down. Got a couple more of them, one on the bottom. Now you're going to repeat this, obviously this piece on the other side, and then what you need to do is where you've come up at that angle on this one, you go the opposite with this one, and that one's just going to slot down in there. Where can we get that on? Put it around there like that. At the moment it looks a little bit unsightly with all this, these wire ties. But all you're going to do is just take a pair of snips and just trim them off. And when you do trim them off, leave about 3/4 of an inch of the plastic left, because in the summer sometimes they can just slightly loosen off, and you need something there to get a purchase on with a pair of pliers so you can just tighten it back up. Not all of them, but you will get one or two that loosen off for some reason. I don't know why, but it does happen. Okay, and so this needs to be done like this all the way down, and just keep going, and both sides, all right? And once you've done that, you will not be able to move this structure. Now, all of a sudden, there is no movement in this whatsoever, just by putting these two. Absolutely none. Rock solid, which is what we want. And the beauty of this method, I mean, there's a guy over the back called John that does this for his sweet peas. He grows some fantastic sweet peas up this structure. Morning, John. Funny enough, he's just turned up. But the beauty of this is the beans are going to grow up, and then they're going to grow out, and all the beans are just going to hang down. Makes it nice and easy. I can come along, just pick them all off, without having to try and root around inside a big A-frame. That's it. Bean structure is done. See you in the next one. Thanks for liking, subscribing, and commenting below. See you soon.